Hey, it's Darren with Arbitrage Trade. It's time for Deep Dive with Daniel. Daniel across the seas in Singapore, having the time of his life, I think. This week's blog that he brought to us is, and he even brought a nice little chart for us to look at a little bit later, is free market versus government regulation, why some prices soar while others drop over 20 years. That is so frustrating, Daniel. So tired of that. So
I was
anyway,
just thinking as I was looking at it, it's like, I made this one extra long for Dare.
it is extra long, and when I did the blog, that we do every week or every day, it was a long one. I didn't include the question and answer session, which actually we can talk about now here as part of the video, but I did refer to them saying that we do have a video coming out. So we got it all covered there. Um, let's go ahead and get started. If you could just give me a recap of what this whole thing's about, let me know, and then we'll break it down.
Yeah, so, this blog post was inspired by a chart I saw a while ago that pretty much breaks down the different rise in costs over the last 20 years of goods and services in the United States. And, the real way you can think of it is all the things that rose are things that have, we'll say some aspect of government regulation behind it. And almost everything that was free market, either the price stayed the same or it decreased on a relative basis. Right. So
Right.
it was, really kind of an analysis breaking down of why are the things that are getting more expensive, i.e., there's some kind of government control aspect behind it, which isn't always necessarily a bad thing, but it does maybe show, the impacts of that. And why do things become more affordable, cheaper, stay the same price over the time? And it's, normally because free market competition.
Yeah, I kind of get. It's not directly this, but it kind of feels like capitalism versus socialism, and the battle of that kind of seems like the macro of this, because governments controlling things make me think of socialism, and free market and supply and demand makes me think of capitalism. So it kind of seems like it's a mixture of both, and so some things, those that love or side more with socialism tend to say, well, we do this, which is like socialism, and we do this, which is like socialism. And then those of us that like capitalism, we say, yeah, but we do this, which is like capitalism, and we do this, which is like a free market capitalism. So it seems to be an internal battle, like everything else in this country, that we're trying to fight back and forth, including, and this is timely too, because we're about to elect the leader of the free world. Just a little small thing. Um, if we actually have the election, but we're not. That's not what this is about. We're going to go ahead and break it
Well, we'll
down.
do that. We'll do that depending how and if the election goes.
Let's go ahead and pull that chart up that you're talking about. It is now on the screen, and it's titled "20 Years of Price Changes in the United States: Selected Consumer Goods and Services and Wages, January 1998 to December 2018." So basically, turn of the century there till now, and you can see how at the bottom of the chart things like, and we'll get into details on this, but if you look at the middle, the zero, new cars, household furnishings, and apparel, and then as you pull down to it's more affordable now, you got wireless telephone services, computer software, toys, and televisions. I guess that depends on which televisions and which toys, but this is obviously an average. And then everything above is hospital is the top, and then college tuition and fees, college textbooks. And I like what you said there. We'll get into that as far as how they're getting around that, even raising it more. Childcare and nursery school, Medicare services or medical services, average hourly earnings, household food and beverages, and then the CPI for all the items. So you've seen the
Darren,
chart
I'd
there.
really hate to see that chart today after COVID and
Yeah, let's get a
inflation.
2024. Let's see what the 2024 chart looks like. Those last
Right.
6 years after all of the money that's been thrown into uh, which we're gonna experience here in the next year or so. Everybody's looking at 2025 like, "Oh, crap, we don't wanna go to 2025, so maybe we won't party like it's 2025." Um, so let's go ahead and break it down. You started off with, government regulation and how that makes the price definitely not right. You're referring to an old TV show, which, I'm surprised you even know about, which is The Price is Right. So go ahead and
What do you
jump
mean? That
into
was
that.
on all the time during the day when I was a kid. Okay,
I know.
so when it comes to healthcare, it was up 200%, right? Which is pretty insane. And the reason that I should say one of the reasons is because of all the government regulation that comes into play with healthcare creates such a big administrative overhead, and it makes it so burdensome for hospitals, medical systems to operate that it becomes insanely expensive, right? And there's a whole other aspect of, I can't remember what they're called, like the pharmacy beneficiaries versus the pharmacy and the kickback to the doctors, which is like a whole thing that I don't understand, but I do know it's insanely messed up. Anyway,
Yeah.
but so when it comes to healthcare, you look at a hospital, right? They have to worry about Medicare, Medicaid, insurance regulations, uh, HIPAA compliance, the Affordable Care Act, and then on top of it, you have to, pay doctors get paid a lot of money, right? Nurses get paid a lot of money now, especially after COVID, right? Because there's a shortage of every job. So healthcare is one of those things because of all the government, kind of regulation behind it, and I'll say government programs that are involved with the healthcare system, it becomes insanely expensive because, insurance companies know, for example, oh, well, Medicare will cover it, right? So we'll just bill whatever the rate is because we know if we bill $800 instead of the actual 200 we want, we can get 400 or, however the math works, right? Um,
Yeah, it's like anything that the government, the price tags don't matter.
mhm.
And like you said, it's just getting away with whatever you can until you're told not to, which kind of reminds me of the stock market too. But yes, and then if you don't get away with it, it's usually just a hand slap, and then oh, silly us, just go back, resume to business as normal. Um,
Now the part I'll give with healthcare is that with some of it, the government regulation probably is good, right? We do want some standards, right? We don't want the industrial revolution style hospital system where it's just like, churn and burn and like, yeah, I hope you make it out, right? It's probably some of it is pretty good. But having been to a place like Bangkok where there is like privatized hospitals, and
yes,
obviously, I'm coming in with American dollars, so my perspective is maybe a
yes,
bit different. But you,
right,
you, you see a lot of Thai people in there, right? And like
yeah.
you get in, you see the doctor within 15 minutes, you do whatever you need, right? And you're out of the place. Where in America, it can take a month and a half to get an appointment for, waiting in the waiting room for an hour and you talk to them for 5 minutes.
Yeah, and you can have those same stories though that like in Canada where you have to wait forever to get a surgery scheduled and other things that are or countries that do socialized medicine. There's a lot of horror stories as well. So it's tough to find that. And plus competition is what drives prices down, right? I mean,
Mhm.
and you don't want a monopoly, and you certainly, in my opinion, don't want a governmental control of our entire healthcare system, because if it generally doesn't work in other places, it generally won't work here. But
Free
that'll be a
healthcare is great if you don't die before you get your healthcare.
that's right. Or more importantly, if they don't decide if you die or not, because that's another problem with that too, is that especially me being older, he's lived a good life. Let's just see ya.
Oh,
I
trust
mean,
me, my dad's had that concern with,
yes.
Medicare, Medicaid, whichever one's for old people.
100%, 100%. Oh, we said old people. Let's go ahead. The millennial.
I have
Uh,
old parents, trust me.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So let's go to college tuition and textbooks. I thought it was interesting how you said that. Okay, they're on to us. They know that this tuition's way too high, so we'll just make the textbooks more expensive. So just yeah, go ahead with that with your college tuition and textbooks.
Yeah, so college tuition has increased 180%, and textbooks were pretty dang close. And the belief behind this is that the government will provide loans for students to anyone, right? So schools know they can charge whatever price because there's always a loan to go get to be able to afford to go to school because, as many people know, anyone can get the loan because you can't default on student debt. It's the only type of debt that you can't declare bankruptcy and default on. So even if you declared debt on $1 million of other stuff, you'd still carry your $50,000 of student debt for the rest of your life, which is kind of an insane concept. But because universities know this, they can keep raising the prices because where there's demand, they'll happily supply.
Yeah, I just put the chart back up again, which I'll do, sparingly throughout this, because you're basically running down the top to bottom. Uh, Unless some politician says, "Hey, we'll pay for your tuition," just to get votes. Sometimes that happens, and actually, sometimes there's follow through, and billions of dollars of our money, from people who didn't go to college or didn't care to go to college, and actually just decided to get a job, a good hardworking job, uh, like a blue collar job, and now they're paying for someone that went through, even rich people that went through college. There's something crazy about that whole thing. And
Here's my take on free
okay,
college, right? So I'm pro free college. I think anybody that goes to college, if they need help, or maybe it's just everybody, should get that opportunity, right? But I think it should be reverse in the sense that college isn't free until after you graduate and you get a job using your degree, right? So you have to go, you have to take on the risk. And if you finish all 4 years, right? Let's say you study business and you want to be an accountant, you get an accounting job. Okay, cool. College is paid for, like your debt's wiped or whatever, right? But if you do
yep.
3 years and you drop out to become a gypsy in Bali, sorry, that debt follows you. You don't get to, or you do 4 years as an English major and now you work at Starbucks, like, I'm sorry, that doesn't count, right? Like, you could have done that job without college. Um,
Well,
so
what about
yeah.
this? Oh, go ahead. I'll let you finish
No, no, no,
your
I
thought
I
because
was just
I
gonna
have a
say that
different one.
that's my take is like I'm
Yeah,
I'm I'm for it. I don't think like my parents worked really hard to be able to help me pay for college, right? Like, why should I now pay for someone who, like, you know, goes
exactly.
to DeVry University and, like, isn't gonna do something with it? No
Different.
offense, DeVry, you're probably
I know.
great.
Uh, here's the thing. What if, and maybe I should run for office, but what if we had the companies, kind of like these team owners in sports, right? They bring on athletes, and they pay for the athletes to be at their company or their team. What if corporations actually not only brought you on, but they also brought your debt on that from college, and they basically would fund that once you come on board. Now, if the government wants to go through the companies to aid that, then great. But it gives that person a not only a way to apply the knowledge that they received, but it also gives them a way to pay back their debt, um, in a field that they studied for. So, I
Well,
mean,
I think Amazon and Starbucks already do an inverse of this, right? If you work there,
okay,
they'll help you. I don't know to what extent, right? I don't think they're like fully paying for your school. But if you're like an
sure.
Amazon warehouse worker and you want to go to college, like there's programs to help you go through that. I know there's the same thing for Starbucks. And I think it's a lot better to work at Starbucks, go through college, help them pay for it, and who knows, maybe you get a corporate job there than to go through college, rack up debt, and then work at Starbucks.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So, it to me, it's important to whatever you study to I don't wanna say be forced to go into it, but if you want your tuition paid for, that it needs to be in that field that you studied. I know that's kind of yeah, that's just if you want it paid for. I mean, you can do that and just like today, still have the debt and then pay it off yourself. But I don't know. I mean, it's definitely something that needs to be explored. Too many people go to college just to go to college and experience the college life. Then they get out and go, okay, now what am I going to do? And that's if they finish. So, yeah, it's just one another quote government program that needs to be worked out. And I don't think the way they're doing it now is incentivizing or even, I mean, just us paying for somebody else's, even rich people's tuition just doesn't sit well with me. Uh, we'll move on. That could be a whole thing in itself. Childcare. I was interested you brought this up as childcare under regulation. So you can explain how you tie those two together.
Yeah, so childcare has become super expensive because there's strict regulation apparently on staff to child ratios, safety measure, and licensing. And I'm sure that cost has gone up exponentially just because of the labor costs after all the stimulus from COVID. um and it's the operation of the building. So I have to imagine now that that one is who knows, maybe above college textbooks.
Yeah, I think so many people now are actually have home daycares, and people utilize those home daycares. Um, and then people that have those daycares have a lot of tax deductions, et cetera, rather than just the buildings that people go to. Those still exist, but I'm just saying I've seen a lot more home daycare, home childcare pop up rather than the buildings. And again, because of the cost of how much it is to be in a building versus in your own home, and the incentives you actually get to be in your own home. Regulation, yes, that definitely needs to happen. It's our kids; they need to be watched after, just like in schools. That need to be made sure that they're being uh, cared for. Because I've seen too many. You've seen those videos where people or they're yanking kids around, and it's really sad, actually.
But once
So
again, a place where
yeah,
yes, there does need to be rules and regulation, right? Because
there definitely
we see
does.
the
There
bad
does.
stuff and it's not good.
If not, just, here's the regulation, make sure that every childcare has to have cameras and that you can watch your kid. I mean, that's to me, that's a
Yeah,
simple thing that
CCTV that every parent can you
yeah,
know
it's a
go
simple thing to
into,
me
and the
that you could
police can. Yeah.
easily enforce and regulate, and then, hey, we all know they're being taken good care of. Same thing in the schools, by the way, too. Uh All right, let's go. I mean, if I were off topic, but if I were a gunman and I knew that the entire school was under camera watch in every classroom, everything else, then I'd be probably less likely to do anything that we've seen happen
I hate to
before.
say it, but I think you'd be more likely, right? Because 'Cause they're going in for notoriety,
For notoriety,
right?
yeah, maybe. I
Yeah,
mean, some of them
yeah,
do. You're right.
'cause now
Some
you'd
of
be
them
the
do.
first guy, like, on live TV doing it, right? So,
That's
I
right.
unfortunately think it'd be the opposite, Darren, but
In the world of TikTok, but they still have that on their phones. Free market triumphs, price drops where competition reigns. So this is supply and demand. This is what I think, and we're supposed to be here in America is supply and demand capitalism. The strong will survive, the weak will fall by the side. Um, is that not what this is? Is that not what US is?
pretty much, we love our plasma TVs for 200 bucks, right? So, TV prices have dropped 90%, um, you know, just due to global competition, advancements in the technology, innovation, and all this comes with free market competition of everybody wants the bigger, faster, better, cheaper TV. And I forget when it was. It was probably a few years ago. I don't own a TV. I haven't owned a TV in a very long time. But
Wow.
my friend bought like a decent sized TV. I don't know TV sizes, but it was decent size. And I was like, and she bought it when like COVID had just started. She's like, I need, something. I was like, yeah, fair enough. And I was like, how much was it? Right. She's like, it's like 200 bucks. And I was like,
Yep.
two, I was like, that I thought that TV would have been like $700. She goes, no, TVs are
Yep.
like really cheap. And I was like, that's actually insane.
Yep. It's probably that, probably a 60-inch would be my guess, something like that. Because you're right, they did come down, they halved almost overnight, one year. and ever since it's been great to have TVs. I've got the chart still up. Um, so we're underneath the zero change, but I did notice back up in the and this is why this chart definitely would be different if we updated it because it basically has new cars being flat, and we know that's not true because of I did a three things again about the average car is $47,000 now. So I know good and well that that's definitely gone up, especially with the EV and the batteries that we're having to pay for now. So but for the most part, I mean, everything else here looks exactly right. But you're right; it would be very interesting to see that chart 2018 to 2024. Now, yeah, I did
Hmm.
pull it up. I did pull it up again, and I will, like I said, as we go down. Wireless services. You want to talk about cell phones and actually phones themselves? Excuse
Yeah, I
me,
mean,
cell service and phones.
yeah. So I mean, they've you know, you'll have to remind me. I can't have the chart on my side. It dropped by 45%. Um,
Pull that chart back up
so
again. Um,
you know,
mhm,
pretty big drop. And I think while the prices have dropped, you have to think about the service that is provided for the price now, right? So
right.
what for the same price of what once used to be, you get so many minutes, you get 2 gigs per device, right? Like, but like, ooh, you get unlimited texting. Is now it's
Yep.
like no one gives a crap about texting, right? Because all like most messaging is done over the internet, so you actually need the LTE. You get unlimited 5G, unlimited international calls, and it's all for I don't know, $40 or $50 a month, right? And even though iPhones are very expensive, it's $1,000, it has, more computing power than like the original space station, right? It's just like, if you didn't have a computer, right? Like it's a computer. It can pretty much do everything. Right? There, in the modern era, it's actually pretty amazing how much
Yeah.
it democratizes your ability to learn or create. Obviously it's still a phone, there are some limits, but compared to 20 years ago, like if I want to like make music, like be a photographer, like start a company or, I don't know, make a media brand, you
Yep.
kind of only need this. And,
That's true. I've seen that. I've seen channels pop up just off of their cell phone. That's it. And a ring light. That's all you need.
yeah, yeah. You need the light and a tripod and you're set.
That's it. And now
You're ready to take on the world. No college
you're an
needed. TikTok,
influencer.
here
That's
I
right.
come.
That's right. And then you next thing you said was talk about software and electronics, about how it's gotten a lot cheaper, and of course, like you just said, more powerful. So you're getting a lot more bang for your buck, so to speak.
Yeah, so I
Um,
mean, we
yeah.
kind of talked about the physical electronics with, the iPhone. But when you look at the software is one of those really unique kind of business models where once the software is created, you pay the capital of the people to create it. It has, insane leverage of it costs you other than, to maybe pay a sales rep, it costs you $0 to more or less distribute that software. And so, you've seen, especially with a subscription business model, you used to have to, I don't remember how much it was, but pay a couple $100 every single time you wanted to upgrade your Mac or your Windows to the new operating system, right? Where I can tell you now, I've had Macs for the last 6 years. I've never paid for any update of anything, but I remember when I was a kid, my parents were like, "Oh, are we gonna upgrade this computer? It's gonna be $200 to go from this thing to this thing. Do we really need to do this one? Like."
Yeah. Working at, I actually was a store manager at Office Depot at one point, and yeah, of course, get your Windows upgrade and $200, and it was steep. It absolutely was. And now, of course, then it went to upgrade online versus coming in buy the little box of software and
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
disk, and so it got easier. And then, like you said, it's just that's what they give you. They're getting their money other ways, but back
Oh, yeah.
then it was that chunk of $200. You're about right, which That was tough to do. I was just like your parents. I was like, do I really need this new Windows upgrade? There's probably too many bugs,
Mhm.
blah, blah, blah. I'll just wait." And then I never do it.
Right.
Just I actually would end up be more likely to get a new computer that already had everything loaded than to buy the
That's
software to
because
upgrade.
for $600, you get the new thing, and you're like, "Well, I've had this thing for a little bit. It kinda does
Yeah,
that
yeah,
thing when
yeah.
it starts," like, you know?
That's right. All right, so the last, section here is about, we'll do the flip side, which is all regulation bad. And you know me, I think there's not enough regulation in like the stock market, um, but we know why. And then you're talking about regulation, like, and I do agree with because we talked about the child care, we talked about uh, just in general safety things like OSHA, that kind of thing, just to protect everybody. I think the FDA, of course, because there's always food problems now, is not doing their job with their regulation for whatever reason.
Didn't
And
McDonald's just have some E. coli outbreak?
E. coli and listeria are the two big things that keep coming up in our food supply. And you have to wonder who's working at the factories. Maybe new people that. All right, I won't go any
Different
further than that.
podcast, Aaron. Different
Yeah,
podcast, Aaron.
but if let's just hypothetically,
E.
if I was
coli,
trying
never
to
heard of him.
if I was trying to take down America and you're trying to do it from the inside out, you're gonna wanna hit the food supply. So, maybe some people come in and they hit the food supply. It just seemed like there's a lot more lately, so that's all I'll say with that. Um,
As long as they don't hit my Chipotle again.
oof, they're getting expensive, so expensive. All right, go ahead and talk about, the last thing here, which is all regulation bad? And then we'll wrap it up.
Yeah, so I mean, this is, kind of the counterpoint to why some of those services are getting more expensive is that, you know, just
True.
the need for those particular industries to have the guardrails they do, right? So it's probably important for there to be a minimum standard at hospitals and childcare, right? Neither of us are going to disagree with that.
Nope.
But at what cost do all those things come? So it's kind of a double-edged sword of, what do you need? How much is too much? And then, maybe where is the fat that can be trimmed for a lot of those things? And a lot of these kind of regulations are there to help prevent market failures, right? Because you don't want a hospital disappearing, because there are only so many hospitals, and if there's only one near you, you kind of don't want that one going out of business, right? So there needs to be
Mhm.
some kind of government support if they're maybe not doing so well, and you need people to be able to access them reasonably still. So it's once again one of those double-edged swords of trying to help the public and do the right thing. But it comes with that increased cost over time.
Yeah, it sure seems focused, though. I'd be okay and feel better about it if it was, equality regulation, if you will, that it hits everything instead of let's just pick this company, make this company a scapegoat, if you will, and an example, and not applying the rules across the board to everyone because I think it tends to be selective, if you will, regulation. And I think if you don't like, just for example, if you really want everything to change to electric and you really don't want um, internal combustion engines around anymore, you might regulate harder to make that happen. Maybe you have some investments in it too in the
You
background.
you wanna know what
But
you wanna know what I laugh at, Darren, is when I go to the doctor and they hand me a piece of paper and they go, "Can you fill out this form?" And I go, "What? A piece of paper? Like, are you like, first of all, my
yeah,
handwriting is you can't read it. No one ever has been able to." I was like, "You couldn't have
yep.
sent me an email beforehand where I fill this out for 5 minutes at home. Instead, you've like, the doctor is like, has 30 minutes spare time, and I have to sit here, like, for 20 of it when I could have just been seen right away." And, like,
I went to the to get a checkup. First time I finally said, okay, I'm old. I got to get checkup and see. what's wrong inside because a lot of us men don't like to do that, and it's just we're scared of what we'll find out, I guess. Um, but I did all the pre check in online, just like you would an airline, and it was a very smooth process. So that is out there, but
I know
the
it's just
fact that
not every place has it, but it should be one of
no,
those
no,
things where like, why can't all my
you want to
doctors see my
regulate that.
stuff?
He wants to regulate that.
I'm not even saying regulate. I'm just saying like, hey, all the records from input to management have to be electronic, right? Use whatever
Yeah,
software you want, but it's
yeah,
got to
yeah,
be
yeah.
electronic, you know?
Yeah,
That's the
it
kind of
was a smooth
regulation I'm here for.
It was a smooth process, it certainly was. Okay, so we covered a lot, a little bit longer deep dive. We dove a little deeper, I guess you could say, and we had a fun little chart to show as well as we went through. And again, this is topical. This is definitely something that's we'll see where we go from here. It'd be interesting again to see the last 6 years because we know that the cost of a lot of things have skyrocketed and maybe that chart's a little different, but in general, that chart is definitely interesting to look at. Um,
I don't want to see
we,
that chart.
I know it probably this chart would have to extend
Yeah, it'd be a
quite a
very
bit.
tall chart.
Yes, and tall from the zero up.
And I think unfortunately even things that got cheaper would like be like going back up, you know?
Well, yeah, it would be like the stock market now, which is definitely up and to the right, but in a bad way.
Yeah.
Because we hit that 9%, at least that's what they reported. I think it's more, but they hit that 9% inflation. I think everything went up. Okay, appreciate you bringing that in again with show and tell with your chart, and that was fun. We'll certainly do something like that again, and look forward to seeing you next week, Daniel, with deep dive with Daniel.
See you then, Darren.
All right, bye bye.